What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to VXG Vision and Grind, the one and only podcast that merges fitness, mindset, lifestyle, and culture, bringing them together like Beyonce and Jay-Z? No. Will and Jada? I don't think so. How about Dub and Lexi?
Yeah, I like that.
So you are rocking with your host, the one and only Double Up, and today I got a special guest. I'm rocking with my wife. Once again, she is blessing us with her presence here on the podcast. My beautiful wife, Alexis. Say what's up, baby.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Yes, indeed. So we are taking a special moment here to jump on here together, and this is like a multifaceted like podcast this week. We had over the weekend, we had some shit go viral on YouTube, and we gained a whole lot more subscribers and followers that kind of just liked our vibe. So
yeah,
what we wanted to do is come in here and just kind of capitalize on some of the attention, and just chat with y'all for a little bit. So today's episode is funny because it's the second time I've had my wife on, and it's also a part 2 of an episode I did called "Is This Racist?"
Yeah.
So we're bringing this topic up because we put out a video of us reacting to this new Jason Aldean song called Try That in a Small Town, or Try This in a Small Town?
Try That in a Small Town.
Try That in a Small Town. And it got some reactions, a lot, mostly because of some of the language I used and just the nature of the video. And it's about race. And I think we are in a really cool space to be able to talk about this. So join us as we converse about race in part 2 of Is This Racist? All right. So just to create a little context, like I said, we did the video about the Jason Aldean song, Try That in a Small Town. And there's just so many just blah, 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 coming from all angles. People, it's not racist, it is
so
racist.
Bad.
Yeah.
So much.
And like, to be honest, like 90% of people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's that simple. And not that I know everything, not that we know everything, but we, just like y'all, have a unique experience. And because we do, you can't just put blanket statements out like that. So we're going to give you a little bit of our background and the things that we've had to deal with race. So I'm going to give you the floor, babe.
Oh.
Tell them about yourself, first of all, for people who don't know. And then just tell us about your experience when it comes to race.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm Lexi. I'm Deb's wife of many years, as a lot of you guys probably know. I don't want to talk too much about myself, but
they gotta know who you are.
Okay. Well, I'm a mommy. I am a real estate professional, a notary, a creator, a UGC creator. I have like so many things going on, babe. And gosh. Oh yeah, and I'm back into yoga. I'm a yogi. I'll call myself a yogi now. I love Pilates, and I love to cook and be with my family.
Yeah.
So
that's what's up.
that's me in a nutshell.
Now, here's where we get to the good stuff. So people looking at you would make an assumption about your background, your ethnic background.
Yeah.
So let people know, what exactly makes you?
What makes me? Well, my mother's family is from Puerto Rico. And so I guess I'm half Puerto Rican. And my father's family comes from Brazil. And I've heard Haiti, but mostly Brazil. So yes, you could say I am Puerto Rican Brazilian. I used to say I'm Puerto Rican and Black. Some days I am just leave me alone. I'm American, so I've had that question many times.
How many of y'all would have guessed that right off the bat? Like, oh yeah, she's Puerto Rican and Black. How many of you guys would have guessed that? Just jot it down. Let us know. Let us know. So coming up like that, and you can see she has this beautiful hair. And if y'all seen our son, he's got the beautiful hair.
Yeah.
I look scruffy right now because I'm trying to grow mine out to match the fam. So I look like whatever right now. I used to have dreads, used to be faded, and now I don't know what the hell's going on here, but I'm trying to get like that.
It's getting better.
Yeah, it's getting better.
It's a process.
Yeah. So growing up like that,
yeah,
and having these features, yeah. What did you experience growing up, and how did you identify racially, and how do you identify now?
Gosh, growing up, there was kind of two sides to me growing up. Part of my early life, I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and not a lot of people know that about me, but I did grow up in Cleveland, like in the late 80s, early 90s. And growing up there, primarily my friends were Puerto Rican, like, because we were around, like, mostly friends and family. So pretty much everybody there was Puerto Rican. That's the side of town we lived on, basically. So growing up, I mean, pretty much everyone was Puerto Rican, or, I had a couple black friends, not a lot of white kids, so that happened a little bit later when we moved to Colorado, and we were like the only family of color in our neighborhood. We moved to Colorado in 93. And my whole perspective on race really changed when we moved to Aurora, Colorado. I began kind of questioning what I am because I heard that question so many times. Ew, what are you? I remember when some kid made fun of me on the bus, and I can't remember exactly what words he said, but he was like, ew, your hair is weird, and they would make fun of my eyes, and I can't even remember what the stupid kid said, but I hit him, I punched him, and I got in trouble. But I was tired of being bullied. I was around kids that really didn't see, people that looked like me. Aurora back in the 90s was mainly white. My whole neighborhood was white. We were the only family of color. So, I got made fun of with my hair, my skin color, people always questioning my identity, my race. And that actually continued all through middle school and high school and stuff. And I feel like I really had an issue of my identity, am I Puerto Rican? My mom's always like, you're Boricua, you're Puerto Rican, be proud of your heritage. And then my dad on the other side, he really didn't say anything about, my identity. So I always kind of tried to identify with the Puerto Rican side, but everybody sees me as a black woman. So I don't know.
And
it's a struggle.
I've seen this firsthand, not just with you, but with my niece, for instance. She's mixed. And it's like you said, people would classify you as black, but you don't look like the other black girls. So how did they treat you?
I mean, people used to make fun of my eye color, my hair. When my mom started straightening my hair when I was 6, because I used to get made fun of about, my hair was they said I had BBs on my neck because my hair was nappy, and it just didn't fit to their standards. So yeah, when I was a kid, it wasn't fun. Yeah. And now that I'm an adult, everybody wants green eyes and curly hair.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? And you know what? When I met her, you were straightening your hair.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Don't get me there, babe. Yeah, I mean, I was straightening my hair. Like I said, my mom started when I was 6, and up until the time you and I met, which was in 2011.
2011, yeah.
I was putting chemicals in my hair every 4 weeks.
Isn't that crazy?
So that I could have straight hair, because I just hated my curly hair.
Mm-hmm. I hate to hear that, because these are like you said, these are the things now that people are paying money to have. They want the curly hair. They want the different color eyes. Some people want the fairer complexion, and it's I can only imagine what it's like to be ridiculed for that when you're younger, and then to grow up in a society now that's the same people who were ridiculing you are now trying to emulate.
Yes.
It's wild. It's wild.
Weird.
But okay, so how does that make you feel?
What do you mean?
Like how you experienced it as a kid, like how does that make you feel as an adult? And
as
even
an
seeing
adult, you know what, it doesn't bother me as much now that I'm an adult. I feel like I've really understand who I am now, and I don't give a shit what people think anymore.
Yeah, that's a good place to be. The reason I wanted her to bring this up is because this conversation about racism, and it's something racist, right? Like, we're all coming from this place of, first of all, we're just piggybacking on societal narratives of like, racism is everywhere. But we're saying that while at the same time discounting everybody's personal experience. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people in the comments on that post really just, it was like a learning experience for me. And I see people that don't necessarily, I don't think a lot of y'all understand what the fuck racism really is. Like, seriously, you throw the word racist out, you throw the word racism out. Let me tell you something. Look at the freaking Google definition of this shit real quick. I'm gonna pull it up because y'all know I love semantics and you know I love to dissect words, right? So when we talk about racism, we're talking about something that's characterized by or showing prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Keep that in mind, okay? Reason I say that is because people throw around these terms like reverse racism. No, that's not
reverse racism.
That's not a thing. That's like saying that's like saying reverse murder. Like, no, there's just murder. There's no reversal. It just exists as a thing. I think what a lot of you guys are doing is you're conflating your notion of racism with cognitive bias. So we'll look up the definition of cognitive bias. So cognitive bias is a systematic thought process caused by the tendency of the human brain to simplify information processing through a filter of personal experience and preferences. So what you believe to be racist is literally just a reflection of what you've experienced in your life. That's why I bring this example up, because for my wife, she had people ridicule her skin color, ridicule her hair, and now how she perceives people who look like the people who did that can be misconstrued as her being racist, when in reality she created whatever, I'm not saying she has this animosity, but in this example she created whatever perspective she has based on her experience. You can't label that racism, because it's not that she wants to degrade or antagonize based on the color of their skin. No, it's actually a reflection of the experiences she had. The skin color just happens to be the constant amongst the people who were doing it, and it might not have even been the case. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind right there. So we get in this conversation, and in the past I've just stayed away from topics of race, but that shit is over with. Like, this shit has to stop.
Can we go back to something?
Yeah.
Because, you were bringing up like how people maybe that used to make fun of me, how they looked. Would you believe that most of them were black women or black girls?
I do. I do. And that's, see,
not white girls. It was black girls.
And this is what's really interesting, because I see a lot of us versus them conversations. And I don't think what a lot of non-black people realize is that while we wish all of us were unity and all of this, we experience a lot of bullshit from our people as well, from people that look like us.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
No lie. And I will just speak from personal experience. Like, when I was younger, I wasn't like white enough to hang out with the white kids or, the Puerto Rican kids, the Latino kids. and I wasn't black enough to hang out with the black kids.
Isn't that crazy?
You know, like, I just wanted to bring that up because that's something that I've dealt with as a kid.
Now, just let's put some perspective on that. Like, just imagine that being your experience as a 5, 6, 7-year-old child. This is your world of who looks like me, where do I fit, where do I belong. And the thing is, this experience is not unique to my wife. Like, there are people going through that of all shades. And this is it's like the gift and the curse of this country, and it's going to be the world soon enough, is that these color divisions, the lines are starting to blur. You're having more interracial relationships, and they're creating kids that are biracial, and they're starting to look more and more alike, even though they may not share the same lineage. You know what I'm saying? So this conversation of race and creating division amongst people who look different, I don't believe would exist if we all took the time to listen to somebody's actual experience. And I'm talking to everybody. If you're a white person, listen to a black person's experience. If you're black, listen to a white person's experience. Because it's, you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you a little bit about how I formed my perspective about race. Can you imagine? My mom went to high school in Little Rock, Arkansas. She was a couple grades behind the Little Rock 9. If you're not familiar with the Little Rock 9, those were 9 black students that were integrated into the high school, the white high school. It's when integration began, right? People in her class were spit on and called nigger, and all of these things, like experiences of hatred for a person you don't know, but because of what was going on in the time, how she looked, she was the recipient of this type of behavior. Fast forward 40 something years now, when I'm a young kid, she's telling me about these experiences. Now, I have not had these experiences firsthand. In fact, up to that point, all I know is that people are people, okay? And I'm not saying at all that my mom was wrong for sharing these experiences with me, but what I'm saying is that without the firsthand experience, I'm now taking on some of the hurt and the animosity that she had, and it's kind of shaping my worldview. So I become a little apprehensive about white people. I start looking and going, okay, I can't trust them because of what maybe their ancestors or grandparents or whatever did to my mom and the people in that era. And we're starting to shape these thoughts. You don't know how white folks talk about black folks behind closed doors. You don't even want to know. And you don't know how black folks talk about white folks behind closed doors. You don't want to know. But the thing is that as a child, you don't know. You're hearing this and it starts to form. Then, and this is what I was talking about, the cognitive bias, is we go out into the world expecting this shit, and it happens. It happens. As a black man, I get pulled over and harassed by a white cop. Why does it happen? Well, I got pulled over and got harassed by a white cop. That's a thing that happened.
Yeah.
But because of the frame I have about white people and about police from maybe previous experiences, maybe listening to much rap music, whatever, right? So now I'm apprehensive. I'm acting a certain way. I have my guard up again, and it's just all of this animosity that's created. So long story even longer, this is all like a product of the system. Not the current system. The current system is residual from the Jim Crow and creating laws that says that people that look like me are 3/5 of human beings. You cannot say that slate has been wiped clean. There's octogenarians in Congress right now who back in the day did some of that shit that we're talking about. They spit on people and they acted in that manner, and now they're running the country. And they don't even have to talk about their little bullshit, and they can come up with their stupid ass little laws and shit and all of this. And, in my opinion, it just, We have not addressed the problem.
Yeah.
We haven't.
That's deep.
Yeah, right?
Is that like these people are the same ones that,
yeah.
You know,
it's crazy.
that all these
We don't even think about this stuff. Meanwhile, we got thousands of people online typing about a song. Listen, we listened to the song.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it since.
I listened to it. Well, okay, it came on in the car, and I was like, you know what?
I'm not gonna lie.
I do like this song.
The hook played in my head a few times, but
a few times. No, we were saying it all around the house. Don't even.
But you know what? But I haven't listened to it since then.
True.
Point being, is that the people in the comment section are not taking the time to understand, and they're just talking to be heard. They are not communicating. And you cannot see progress without communication. You can't. You gotta be able to listen to what the opposite. And you know what? Listening is not the same as hearing. Listening is taking the time to process the information, and if you choose to respond, your response is thoughtful. We don't do enough of that. So, yeah, that shit gets heavy. I think people don't understand another person's plight, and I can never say I know what a white person goes through. I don't know what y'all's life is, if it's any different, if it's the same, if you deal with the same shits that we do. But I can tell you this, like, a lot of the things that you might hear from a person of color that you think, that sounds like bullshit, it's probably not.
Yeah.
It's probably their experience. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on acting on those feelings that you might have had? And how have you changed your behavior, if in your perspective on just people in general?
I love people of all colors. I will not ever say that I don't like white people or I don't like black people or whatever. I love everybody. My world was that when I was a kid. And then as I've gotten older, of course I change. Now, the issue is I still see, like, kind of, and I don't know if people mean it, but like racist things, like when people try to touch my son's hair, and like, and it's typically like old white people, and I don't know if they get that I feel like you're petting my son, or like do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost always like older white people, but I'm not gonna say I hate them. It's irritating, and I don't feel like they realize that I feel like that's racist. You shouldn't go around petting people.
Yeah.
Overall, I feel like I like most people, though. I feel like everybody has a little bit of racism in them, or like prejudice.
Yeah. And we don't talk about that enough because it's not politically correct. But I think that's what a lot of people are convoluting racism with, like that's the same thing as the cognitive bias. Like, we all have just that motherfucker, and it could be just in reference, like, if you got your heart broken by a brunette, you're gonna be like, man, these fucking brunettes ain't shit, man. And that might be for a small amount of time until you get over it, or if that person did you some like damage, you might be holding on to that, and you make that generalization when in reality it was just, that person, and that's what people are holding on to. I want to go back to the hair thing though, because it's not just like our son. Yeah. I've been out in public with this woman and and it's usually like some drunken, like, can I touch your hair? And it's like,
no, bitch.
But it's not just the question. I've seen, and my wife got the mean karate chop coming up when somebody comes to like, y'all can't do that.
It's happened.
You can't do that
so many times. I don't understand why people feel like that's okay.
Yeah. And like she said, you have to understand that, like, that can be interpreted as racist.
It's like a petting gesture.
Yeah. It's like you're touching an animal, like you're petting a dog or something.
I'm not a dog. I'm not a doll. There's personal space, and I don't want you in it.
And I'll be honest, I had to learn that because nobody ever went to touch my hair. And so when we're out in public and I see
Alice killed Curtis. Let me tell you this story about Costco really quick, because we were in there and this man like kept walking by us and looking at our son, and I'm like, this guy's gonna do some weird shit. And then he goes to grab Kennedy's hair.
Oh yeah.
And Curtis was just like, ugh. He didn't even know what to do.
I didn't even know.
And I'm like, what the F are you doing, like, touching my son?
You don't even expect no shit like that. And yeah, like,
I expected it though, because I knew what was going through that man's head when I saw his face.
And it's like, here's the thing, like, as a fucking, I just hate that I have these thoughts because I have empathy. So I understand, like, oh, I've never seen hair like that.
I don't have empathy for people
but
like
don't
that.
do that.
No.
Like, I'm saying I feel like I understand where the thought is coming from. It's the action and following up with that. Like, you're violating a human being's personal space.
I have never wanted to just touch somebody's body parts, though.
No. You don't.
I don't get the logic in that.
So for anybody wondering, the law is you don't touch a black person's hair, especially a black woman.
Don't do it. It's beautiful, and let it be beautiful from a distance. Thank you.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. Like, I just we rarely take time to understand the other person. I keep coming back to that point of, like, before you do a thing, and this is why people get so hung up in this, like, politically correctness. I don't think when it comes to your words, you need to tiptoe on eggshells. When it comes to your actions, make sure that your actions do not violate another person.
Yeah.
And if they do, that's when it's proper to apologize. I saw a lot of comments of people like, don't apologize for using redneck or hick, or hillbilly. I didn't say hick. But is it hillbilly? Is hick just like a combination of a hillbilly and redneck? It just seems like it just seems like that's like the two words put together. Anyway,
I don't feel like that's a nice word.
It doesn't sound right.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I use those words and people are like, don't apologize. I did not apologize. What a mature person does is acknowledges what they have done and how it affects other people, and then they may or may not make some sort of effort to correct the behavior in the future. But you have to acknowledge that what you said was some bullshit. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like you need to correct that? Because I feel like 90% of the people in the comments were okay with you saying redneck and hillbilly, and they said they're proud of that term.
That's how they identify. No, I don't think it's necessary to correct. And let's just be clear. There's no comparison between those words and using the N-word. There's no comparison there. The N-word has been universally understood that is unacceptable. Just period. The way it was used to demean people in the eras that it was used, and the hatred that was behind it and the history in that word.
Yeah.
No. Okay? If there is a history like that behind the other words, redneck and hillbilly, please enlighten me. Okay? But from what I see, it's the same thing as calling them homeboy. Like that's
how they were saying.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. And you know what I'm saying? There was no malice in my way of saying it. If you use the N-word without malice, you're brave, because there you will get flack depending on where you are. Like, if you're amongst people who are just passive about that shit, I'm telling you, do not call me that. So if you were on a video using the N-word and I specifically said do not call me that, and it is widely accepted that we are not to be called that, then you owe an apology to those people that you've harmed with that word. However, if you take a look at the comments, people are like, yo, don't even worry about it. We call ourselves that. We cool. It's not a word that I go around, hey, what's up, I don't say it like that. It was in reference to the people who were listening to that music.
Well, you know what? There was a few people in the comments that were kind of softies, and they were like, yeah, you shouldn't use that word.
Yeah.
But then, the overall consensus is like, yeah, the people that say you shouldn't use that are basically bitches.
Yeah. And
and don't mind them because
their
opinion doesn't matter.
And here's the thing, like, we're all responsible for our own triggers, okay?
Yeah.
So if you call me the N-word and I get upset about it, yes, you're an asshole for using the word, but I'm also responsible for my own anger, okay? So this is how we're all going to operate. It's just been widely understood that that's not going to be said, and we just keep on rolling with that. I think, like you said, the people who get offended about everything.
Yeah.
Everything offends y'all, man. Like, why? It's one thing if you are personally offended, but I start to see people who are trying to be offended on other people's behalf. Like, you'll have an Asian person jump on my post and be like, white people will get offended if you say, you don't know. Yeah. Like, it's not, don't be a superhero. Yeah. There's no need for you to jump in and sprinkle that little bit in here. Don't worry about people getting offended. Here's the thing, like, if you got $1 for every person who could potentially be offended by something you say, you'd be rich as fuck. Yeah. You'd be balling. You'd be making
rolling in the dough, baby.
You'd be making some money. But I mean, that's our world now. The comment section is full of offended. Twitter is full of offended. And when we attach race to it, like, that's very delicate, which I get, because you heard my wife's story. You don't know her experience. So if somebody were to get on the camera and be like, light skin with curly hair, y'all got it made.
No.
Think again. Like, you need to hear a person's experience.
Yeah.
My experience as a black man, like, I grew up in California, in Colorado, and now I live in South Florida. Do you know that I've been around Mexicans, I've been around all the Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Thai. I've been around people from the Middle East, Indians. I've been around Italians. I've been around Germans, all kind of white people, Irish, Scottish, Australian, English. And then I've been around Africans. We're talking about Eritreans, Ethiopians, Somalians, Kenyans. I've been around Haitians. I've been around out here Jamaicans. I've been around Cuban, all of them. And I grew up jealous of that shit. Because all these people have lineage that they can draw back from. And then I start to look at me. And what am I considered? A black male, an African American? What does my lineage draw back to? Jim Crow, slavery, civil rights. Like, these are not things to gloss over, but like, where's the homeland pride? Because I tell you what, if I walk around with an American flag, now people who look like me are gonna ridicule me for having pride in my country.
That's not crazy.
Where do I go? My brother, my blood brother, is the only person that shares the same bloodline as me. He did the 23andMe. Turns out, like, his thing said he's like 70% Nigerian. I've never been to Nigeria. If I go to Nigeria, will I get received like a family member, even though I'm Americanized and have lived here my entire life? So imagine what a person who looks like me, who then not only looks different, but acts different. Got these big old holes in my ears and tattoos and all that shit. Imagine growing up like this. You don't know where you fit in. I went to 4 different high schools, and the only thing that we could really bond around was like hip hop and gangbanging. And that was really it, because we don't share anything else. We don't have a motherland. We don't have Cinco de Mayo to celebrate our independence. We don't have that. We just recently started talking about Juneteenth. Yeah, we started talking about Juneteenth. Which
nobody celebrated until like the last year or two.
It's been, I remember it being...
in Colorado.
Yeah, I remember it being a thing. But then I started to think about, like, what is that actual celebration about? Of when slaves were informed that they were free.
The slaves on the West Coast, because everybody else on the East was already free.
And I just start to get to this point, and this is just my personal perspective of, like, I get tired of my history and anything that's brought up about who I am being tied to slavery. I'm yearning for something greater than being property at one point and picking cotton and segregation.
I'm tired of hearing about that.
And I just don't like it. Oh man. Oh my gosh. So when you hear these perspectives, you know what I mean? Like, I want y'all to really think about the human experience, because there are people who genuinely see past color, and it's both I believe it's a very nice sentiment, but it's also very naive. It's naive to say that we're all the same. We're all humans. Okay, that's great. Yeah. Take a walk in my shoes for a day and see things through my perspective. If you could even see things through my perspective, the perspective that was, it's literally just a hodgepodge of experiences, things that I've read, things that I've seen, things that I've gone through that have formed how I view the world. And it's completely different than what you've gone through and what she's gone through. Absolutely. And we don't ever take the time to appreciate that, because we're too busy standing on our fucking soapboxes acting like we're so self-righteous because we don't see color. Or
yeah, you're full of shit.
It just like, get the fuck out of here. I'll be honest, I would prefer somebody be true to themselves and say some racist shit, and then we have a conversation about it, than for you to pretend to be this, that, and the other, and then behind closed doors go running your mouth about how you actually feel. Because that shit does come to light, and it's fake. We don't need that. We don't need that type of stuff, man. Oh, see, I get like, I know you're getting charged up about this shit because because it's serious, man. I think like we don't take the time to actually listen to these conversations. We're so scared as a society to have these conversations. Yeah. And then when we do, we're all defensive with our fucking guards up, ready to pop somebody who says the wrong thing. Like I said, I would appreciate if somebody was just like, I don't like black people. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Why? What happened?
That's what I would like to know.
That's what I would want to know.
What happened? Talk about what happened. We just talked about what happened. Now, it's not that I don't like white people or I don't like any person for how they look, but I've had experiences. Yeah. I've been arrested for how I looked. I had a fucking cop call me Ice Cube and throw me in handcuffs on the freaking All-Star weekend in Denver just because of how I looked. I had some drugs on me, but he had no business approaching me. But yeah, I'm saying, like, I really think we're better off as a society, man, when we just keep this shit real. Cause like, again, if you have those feelings, if you have those like that animosity, explore why. Have a conversation with somebody who looks different. You might change your perspective. Yeah. I'd love that we can have this conversation. Yeah. And the thing is, like, to have my wife on here and to give it's not just a black perspective. It's not just a Puerto Rican perspective. It's not just a woman's perspective. It is my wife's unique perspective. And you all have unique perspectives. And there's nothing wrong with that unique perspective. Embrace it, because who you are is beautiful. This beautiful woman right here, the same person who was getting ridiculed for her eyes and her hair and her skin tone and all of this stuff, is right in front of you, smiling and you know, just able to tell you her experience as a, how do you want to identify?
Well, I told you this the other day, but just as an American.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, is that crazy? I mean, you know, because there's a weird, like, people have an issue with the word Afro-Latina now. I feel like a lot of Latino people don't like that term.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know that.
And then there's, like, Latinx. There's, like, Afro-Latino, Latinx. There's biracial. There's mixed. I mean, we have all these freaking mulatto people have called me. I mean, red bow. All the words. I've heard all the words. I'm just Lexi.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a huge advocate for individualism. I think individualism then creates a more succinct collective culture. We're all so quick to identify in these like sub whatevers of like, I'm identifying because of my skin color, and because of my sexual preference.
Well, the box, like, when you have a form and you have to check a box, I change the box every time, I'll be honest with you. So some days I'll put Hispanic or Latino. Some days I'll put black. Yeah. Some days I'll put biracial. And then I'll just put unknown.
Why do they ask that shit?
It's stupid.
I don't even know why they ask that.
It might be like a demographic thing. Maybe if they're like looking at, I don't know.
Because they ask you your age too. So I suppose that goes in the same box. Yeah. I don't know. Shit.
Well, when I got my speeding ticket, the officer put white for me. Do you remember that?
See,
they don't know. Nobody knows. Yeah. So, hey, whatever. I'll just identify as beautiful.
I'll second that one. Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I hope you gained a new perspective, at least for two, I'm going to call us young, beautiful, black people who are having a human experience just like y'all. We have our perspectives. Listen, I'm going to leave you guys with this thought. We are not supposed to agree about everything. We are not. We are not supposed to agree about everything. We're trying to create this like vanilla binary society where everybody is on the same page. We have had different experiences. We're all from different backgrounds. Yeah. And the irony is, that's what makes us all the same, is that we're all different. We should be leaning into that. We should be not just leaning into our uniqueness, as my wife has, embracing her hair, her eyes, her skin tone, how I have. Whatever makes me unique, I put it out there. I think the fact that I can just talk for 45 minutes is part of it, whatever. But the point is, it's like accentuate that shit. And then when you see other people, appreciate that shit. Appreciate what makes somebody different. Like, just imagine, I got a challenge for anybody, but specifically for white people. Try this out and see the reaction that you get. Go up to a person of color and tell them you really love and appreciate them.
Oh.
What response would they have? What, are they gonna get mad? Are they gonna like?
That's interesting.
Seriously.
Why that type of challenge?
Because there's always been this apprehension.
Yeah.
And for somebody that you expect to be racist, or that you expect to be oppressive, to tell you that they love and appreciate you without even knowing you.
Wow.
I guarantee that person will not only be taken aback, but you might begin a healing process for that person who might be looking at white people like, I don't like y'all. You know? That's something that we don't do on a daily basis. We don't take the time to acknowledge people for who they are. You know, if you tell that black person, I love your beautiful black skin, are they going to get offended by that? And if they do, there might be something that person needs to work out.
Yeah.
Just a challenge. Let me know how that goes if you're up for the challenge, you know? Because at the end of the day, like I said, we're all different. And that's what makes us the same. Yeah. You got any parting words before we step out of here?
No, I love it. This was beautiful. I loved having this conversation. I haven't been able to speak like freely about this, so this was really good. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think we should all practice speaking freely about this. I don't think topics of race, I really don't think there are many topics that should just innately be taboo. We should be able to have these conversations like adults.
Yeah.
Without shouting and pointing fingers or cutting and pasting headlines or spouting out fucking Fox News talking points. Like, think for yourself and evolve. And on that note, we bid you adieu. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Make sure that you subscribe to the VXG Podcast. That's Vision X Grind. You can find it on Apple, Spotify. We drop new episodes every Sunday. You can also, I'll put this in the description as well as in the show notes. You can go back and listen to episode, I don't even remember what fucking number episode it was, but the episode Is It Racist Part 1.
Oh, yeah.
And you can also listen to Alexis and I's conversation about relationships and love and how we got together if you want to hear more about our backstory. But we really appreciate you taking the time to tap in with us today. And as usual, keep your eyes on your vision and your mind on the grind. Let's go.